Welcome to India Talks, a program about Indians in Indonesia. This program is brought to you by IndoIndians.com and QTV, the channel for newsmakers and decision makers. You watch, know and decide. And here we talk to you about Indians who are successful, motivational and inspire us. And we learn from them what are the reasons behind their success here in Indonesia. Today we have with us Dr. Bammi, who is a social sciences teacher for high school at JIS. Hello, Dr. Bammi. Welcome to our show.
Nice to meet you. Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Thank you. And you know, we know that you've been here for a long time in Indonesia. So you're teaching social studies, and what does that mean? I believe you teach a lot more than social studies.
Yes, I teach social sciences at Jakarta International School. But I teach a range of courses, including Asian Studies and Global Studies. And I also do a specialized course called Theory of Knowledge, which is offered for the International Baccalaureate curriculum.
This is a new topic that has come up recently over the last few years, where IB is teaching Theory of Knowledge. What is Theory of Knowledge all about?
Well, Theory of Knowledge is a very interesting course because it focuses on what we call critical thinking.
Okay.
And critical thinking is a very important skill that all students should take once they leave high school and go out into the world, because critical thinking allows them to look at multiple perspectives, as we say.
So what would you say is critical thinking in a very simple form, such that I may understand?
Well, critical thinking means the ability to understand other people's viewpoints.
Okay.
That is at its simplest.
Or in other words, you're saying being open to other people's point of view.
Absolutely, yes. And as a result, you begin to be much more reflective of your own thinking, and you're able to also understand other people's perspectives.
I see.
And since our students are going out into a globalizing world, I think that's a very important skill that they should have.
Now that you really need, in this day and age where you have people who are fighting because of their own point of view.
That's right.
I think being open is definitely the way to go.
And I think that's a very important point, in the sense that critical thinking should not be seen just as an intellectual exercise. It has direct results on not only how people think, but also how they behave, how they interact with other people. And yeah, exactly, if people had critical thinking, I think they would not resort to violence or not resort to trying to impose their own viewpoint upon other people.
Well, in that sense, I think it's a great course to be offered to students at high school.
I think so. I mean, I certainly feel I should have had a course like that at 16 or 17 instead of learning it gradually over the years. So I think it's a very important sort of weapon, you might say, although I'm using the wrong metaphor. It's a good weapon for a student to take with them into this world.
And how did your journey to be here at this point begin?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. If you had asked me when I was 15 or 16, I certainly wouldn't have thought I was going to be a teacher. I thought I was going to be a tea planter like my father.
Oh, your father was a tea planter?
That's right.
And where?
I grew up in Assam in eastern India. And it was a beautiful life, very nice childhood, close to nature. As far as I can remember, very far back, we even had tigers and leopards roaming around.
Have you seen them by your own eyes?
Yes, yes. And in fact, we had to lock our dogs and cows because they might come and eat them up at night. And so it was a pretty wild childhood, but very nice, close to nature. It was beautiful. So I thought that would be my natural sort of thing to do.
Okay. And where did you study while you were in Assam?
That was the unfortunate thing. There were no really good schools there. So my parents had to send me to a boarding school at an early age. And I eventually finished at the Doon School in India, which is a well-known
it's a very well-known
private school. Yes. And after that I went on to do a bachelor's degree in history at St. Stephen's College in Delhi. And after that I applied to study in the US, but I had a year off. And in that year I went back to teach in Doon.
Okay.
And that's the first time I began to think, well, maybe this is an interesting profession. I certainly got a sense that it was worth considering.
But why did you even go back to Doon in the first place, the 1 year that you said?
I think my parents forced me. They didn't want me at home for the whole year. They said, try something, you know. But it was, I also loved the school so much. So it was very nice to be back in a different capacity, of course.
Correct.
Yes,
like a student teacher.
Right.
And then you went to the US to do your doctorate.
That's right. I did a doctorate in history at Carnegie Mellon University. But what was interesting about that doctorate was that it was very practical. It included a lot of courses in curriculum development, teaching methods, educational psychology, and part of it was that I had to be doing internships in teaching. And as a result, that's when I really developed, I think, my love of teaching, because I realized that this was a very interesting profession.
So, in your stay in the US, and after that you came back to India to teach at an international school.
That's right.
How wasn't that a total sea change, you know, being in Assam as a tea planter's son, studying in a boarding school in Dehradun, and then going all the way to the US for your doctorate? Must have been a total change in life as you knew it then.
Absolutely, but I think, you know, the great strength that I got from leaving home early and going to school is it made me very adaptable. And so I think that served me well right through my life. And then, you know, coming back from the US back to India, I felt that I should come back to my roots for a while. So I came back to teach at an international school, but that was in southern India, which was very nice. It was a beautiful place called Kodaikanal. Yeah.
So we will come back after the short break and talk to you about your other hobbies and passions that you have here.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have any comments and feedbacks regarding India Talks, do remember to SMS to us.
Love for nature and for beautiful things. And then when I went to America, it was a very different environment. And then in my very first year there, we had the fall or autumn, and the leaves turn all those beautiful colors. And that's when I took a camera. It must have been a really battered old camera for a student, but I took it out and started photographing fall. And that was so beautiful. And ever since then, I've gradually developed a passion for photography. Now in Indonesia, I would have to say credit my teacher, was Pak Denik Sukarya.
He's a very well-known Indonesian photographer.
That's right, that's right. So once I met him, and I've been very inspired by his work as well. So, you know, gradually I think I've really grown into a lot of that.
So what kind of a camera do you use?
At the moment I'm using a Nikon D70, which is a digital camera. But that I only made the switch about a year back. So before that I was using a Nikon SLR as well.
A couple of years ago I believe you had another book called Golden Buddhism, which was about your trip to Vietnam and the surrounding area.
Yes, actually Burma, Thailand, Cambodia, these were the countries which inspired me a lot when I was visiting, and so I wrote a book called Golden Buddhism, and it also was a similar combination of photographs and text, because I was also very inspired by the philosophy of Buddhism.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this book, Indonesia?
Absolutely, yes. It actually is a book full of my enthusiasm for the country, and it covers more or less the entire spectrum from Papua all the way to Sumatra. So I've tried to cover as much of the country as possible to convey both its diversity, and also I call it a feast for the senses. So I wanted to give the impression of, which is what is so true about this country, that it really hits all your senses. And it's a very fulfilling aesthetic experience as a result.
You said that you have some text along with the photographs.
Right.
Can you share something with us?
Sure. I would like to read a passage which relates to the wayang in Java, because I think that will help to explain why I'm so influenced by Indonesia in my own thinking. Right. The wayang inhabits a world of intricate and overlapping layers. Its audiences include the gods, ancestor heroes, nature, and the clowns, that is us, the ordinary living folk, addressed in different languages including Sanskrit, Classical Javanese, Indonesian, and American English. Its flexible format enables the wayang to retain an eternal relevance. The stories of the Wali saints who popularized Islam in Java have been incorporated into Hindu and Buddhist themes, and modern governments use its popular appeal to spread messages of national purpose. In my study of world civilizations, I have never come across any mental construct as sophisticated and tolerant as the multiple dynamic frameworks of Javanese thought, the perfect model for our globalizing world.
That's very, very relevant.
Thank you. Yeah, and if I can just expand on that a bit.
Sure.
this multiple and tolerant perspective that comes from Java has greatly influenced my own approach to spirituality and religion. And I feel